I'm 82 years old, and there's something I spent decades building that, without me realizing it, almost destroyed me from the inside. It's not illness, it's not loss. It's something quieter, something that happens to almost everyone after 60. What I'm about to tell you took me decades to see clearly. And if you're somewhere between 50 and 70 right now, I think you need to hear it before it's too late to do anything about it. My name is Ernesto. I was born in 1942. I worked 41 years as a civil engineer. I built things for a living: bridges, roads, structures designed to last. And somewhere along the way, I started believing I could build my own future the same way. Piece by piece, calculated, secure. I bought a house. I saved money. I got health insurance. I raised 2 sons and made sure they had more opportunities than I did. I did everything the right way. And for a long time, doing things the right way felt like enough. What nobody tells you is what happens after you finish building. The night I retired, my oldest son organized a dinner. My colleagues gave me a plaque. I smiled the whole evening. And that night, alone in my house, I sat down at the kitchen table and I didn't know what to do with the next few hours. It was Tuesday. There was no meeting on Wednesday. There would never be another meeting. And something shifted in me that I couldn't name yet. I had spent 4 decades being very good at something that no longer existed in my life. I adapted. People do. I started walking more. I read books I'd been putting off for years. I traveled a little. But there was something that kept feeling off, something I couldn't put into words. And I only understood it completely when my wife got sick. Eleanor had a stroke at 73. She survived, but she was left with limitations that grew slowly over time. For 4 years, I was her primary caregiver. Not because we couldn't afford help, but because she didn't want strangers assisting her with things she considered private. I understood. I did it willingly because I loved her. But in those 4 years, I watched something happen that disturbed me in a way I still haven't fully resolved. Alana was a sharp woman. She taught school for 30 years. She raised our sons with a quiet firmness I always admired. But after the stroke, something changed in her that had nothing to do with her physical condition. She started asking my permission for things, not directly, but she would ask me whether it was okay to watch a certain program, whether it was reasonable to want something, whether it was all right to feel a certain way. As if needing help to move had convinced her she also needed help to think. That broke something in me that hasn't healed. After Eleanor died, I was left alone with that image. And I started watching myself with a kind of honesty I hadn't allowed before. I began noticing the same pattern in friends my age. People who at 75 seemed completely in charge of their own lives. And others, same age, same health, sometimes even healthier, who seemed to be waiting for someone to tell them what to do. And the difference wasn't money, it wasn't physical condition. Sometimes the most comfortable person in the room was the most dependent. That made me ask a question I still don't have a complete answer to. Can comfort, when it arrives too early or in too great a quantity, weaken something essential in a person? I don't say this as a criticism. I say it as a genuine question. Because when I think about the moments in my life when I felt most myself, most capable, most alive, they almost never coincide with the most comfortable moments. At 71, I made a decision my sons didn't understand. My wife had just died. They offered me a smaller apartment, newer, closer to them. They offered it out of love. I knew that, but I said no. I stayed in the house where we raised our family, the house with the stairs, the house that requires maintenance, the house that asks something of me every single day. They thought I was being stubborn. Maybe I was, but I knew something I couldn't explain well at the time. That house, with everything it demands of me, is the place where I still make decisions. I decide when to paint a wall. I decide if I want to eat at 6 or at 8. Nobody adjusts the thermostat for me because they think they know better. Nobody chooses what goes in my refrigerator. Nobody manages my calendar. That house is the last territory where I am completely the author of my own life. And I've come to believe that's the thing. That's what actually matters after 60. Not comfort, not security in the abstract, independence, not as a philosophy, as a daily practice, as the concrete ability to get up, move, decide, act, make mistakes, and correct them, without anyone having to approve the process. I'm 82 now. I climb those stairs more slowly than I used to. Some days my knees remind me of every decade I've lived. There are things I no longer do because my body simply won't allow it. But within the limits my body sets, I am still the one who decides. And that difference, which might seem small at 40, is everything at 80. I've watched people lose that. Not because of illness, but through accumulation. First, someone drives them because they don't like driving at night anymore. Then someone manages their accounts because the technology is confusing. Then someone decides where the family spends the holidays because it's easier that way. And somewhere in that process, the person stops being consulted. They start being managed. The strangest part is they often don't notice, because each of those steps, taken alone, seemed completely reasonable. I think about Elena at 52, arguing with me about politics with a certainty that irritated me and that I loved. I think about her at 68, deciding on her own to take painting classes, even though she'd never painted a day in her life. I think about that version of Elena, the one who was completely herself. And I wonder at exactly what point she started asking for permission, and whether either of us could have done something differently. Maybe not. Maybe the stroke changed everything in a way no earlier decision could have prevented. But sometimes I think that habits of independence, like all habits, are built over decades. And when the hard moment comes, what you have is what you cultivated before. I'm not saying family doesn't matter. My sons are the best thing I ever made. I'm not saying health doesn't matter. Without a basic level of health, nothing else is possible. But health and family are conditions. They are not the point. The point is to remain a person with your own judgment, your own preferences, the ability to say yes or no from a place that is genuinely yours. There is a kind of slow disappearance that nobody warns you about. It doesn't announce itself. It arrives in small steps, each one dressed as help, as convenience, as love. And one day you realize that the life you're living has been arranged by other people, all of whom meant well. That is what I've spent the last 11 years trying to resist. Not out of pride, out of something harder to name. The sense that if I stop being the author of my own life, I stop living in the only way that has ever meant anything to me. At what point does security become dependence? And when people lose their independence in the final years of life, do you think that happens suddenly or slowly through decisions made decades before?